Greetings and welcome to another episode of Pops Collection, where we dissect and reflect on a movie or TV show from my Pops Collection. I'm Ron Tweedy. Joining me is Pops, and today we're going to be talking about 1998's Blade.
Welcome, everyone. So happy that you're with us. Hope you had your coffee, sit back and relax. We're going to discuss, I'm going to say, like Iron Man is a B character, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Blade probably a C or D character, maybe. You
Sort
think
of.
less known, sort of. Interesting character, and I am looking forward to this, even though you can't. I don't know that you could count it as horror genre, maybe.
Oh, it
Or
is,
can
definitely.
you?
Definitely.
Yeah, but not scary horror.
Right.
Would you say?
Right.
Kind of a mix between horror slasher movie, kind of,
Sure.
because of the violence and what have you.
Yeah.
But interesting movie released in August of 1998.
Mm-hmm.
Had a budget of $45 million and made $131 million. It was actually the first time that Marvel, it was actually their second property that they released in a wide section of the United States and worldwide, I might add.
Okay.
Was their first ever profitable success in that genre.
Right.
The second one that had been released. The first, of course, movie that we really haven't done yet. Probably my favorite and mine, Howard the Duck.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes. So that was the first, their first worldwide release.
Mm.
And then Blade was their second. Actually, they started thinking about doing this movie a lot earlier.
Mm.
And surprisingly, I've seen Blade quite a few times, and I really cannot picture anybody but Wesley Snipes being Blade.
Right.
Originally, I think LL Cool J wanted to play that part.
Hmm.
When before the company got a hold of it, New Line.
Yeah.
It was New World before that, that had the rights, and he really wanted to play that part. And it's kind of interesting because they were kicking around a Black Panther thing around there, and Wesley Snipes actually wanted to be Black Panther.
Right.
But I don't know if I could picture anybody but Chadwick Boseman being Black Panther. What do you think?
I think Snipes could have pulled it off back in the 90s. I think he could have. I don't think that Black Panther was I don't think it was a movie or a character that was suited to what the 90s technology and everything had. I don't think
at that particular time, yes.
I don't think the culture was ready for a Black Panther movie until much later.
Right. Well, interestingly enough, LL Cool J, the rapper,
Mm-hmm.
I just can't picture him as being the Blade character. Now, there is the guy that did the TV series
Mm-hmm.
Blade. He was a rapper named Sticky Fingers.
Okay.
And he kind of looks a little like LL Cool J, bald head and,
Mm-hmm.
What have you.
Sure.
So, I mean, he might be able to pull it off, but I don't know. Wesley Snipes just, to
Mm-hmm.
me, is Blade, And actually, the writer of this version, after New Line got it, David Goyer got the opportunity to write it.
Right.
And there were a few people that were in line to try it. And he definitely was set on Wesley Snipes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really a good thing. And I think it worked out, for the good.
Yeah.
So what can you tell me about this character? Like I said, A or B character, B, C?
Sure.
Maybe D.
Well, I think you kind of have to put it in the right context. So, it's the early 70s. You have the relaxation of some of the standards from the Comics Code Authority. And once again, horror/monsters were able to be in the comics again. There was a time period where they got rid of horror comics altogether, and it was just superheroes. And so when you have the early 70s, you start introducing some of the characters are returning. So for our discussion today, we're going to focus more on the vampire side of things. Talked a little bit about werewolves when we talked about Moon Knight, and that was kind of his first entrance as a Marvel character into the story, which was he was a werewolf hunter. And so we get introduced to a new character, Blade, as a vampire hunter who originally ended up premiering in the comic The Tomb of Dracula. And so I've got a couple comics we can take a look at here through the Marvel Unlimited application. You can see
let me ask you a question.
All right.
This Tomb of Dracula, was this after the EC Comics, Tales from the Crypt, and those versions? Those were gone by then, right?
I believe so. I actually don't know. I couldn't tell you one way or the other because that wasn't a part of
that was part of what caused the comic book code in the first place. The EC Comics version, Tales from the Crypt and the kind of stories they went through.
There was a number of things. There's a short film called Seduction of the Innocent that kind of called out comic books as one of the reasons why they were public, juvenile delinquents and things like that. And, for good or for ill, I think you could think it's, there's, I think there's more to it than just, what they're talking about, but I do think that they're partially right in some things. That might warrant a different discussion for a different day, because there's a lot of other things going on with that. But
sure,
but yeah. Anyway, 70s. This is as you can tell, Blade is a character that he in this one. This one's a Dracula book, and he's actually as a vampire hunter. And you can see he's got wooden knives as opposed to the silver that he has in the movie.
Right. Well, the vampire lore has changed over the years,
Right.
So,
and
wow.
You can see here, he's very 70s, right? He's got the yellow shades. He's got the afro. He's got, giant jacket and,
almost Luke Cage-like,
he came out a little bit after Luke Cage, but very, very similar in the same vein, as a black superhero. Again, very distinctive style, and definitely a lot different than Luke Cage. Luke Cage is focused on cleaning up Harlem, whereas this guy is traipsing around all over the world trying to hunt down vampires. So very, very different.
And if you look at that too, really in the comic, he had no powers. He was just a regular guy.
Are you talking about Blade?
Yeah.
Well, Blade is I guess in the beginning it was like this, but then they kind of refocused his origin story to where his mother being bit by a vampire, very similar to the film. Same thing happened to her that way. And then the extra part is that there's a interaction. I don't think I have it in this comic, but the other main vampire character they decided to play around with. Oh, this is another comic. This is Vampire Tales. This is a black and white one where you have another depiction of Blade. This is a little bit different, but the art style is interesting, I think.
Oh yes, I like it. I don't believe I've ever seen that comic. So
yeah, you can see.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. But again, very similar. Got the glasses and the wooden knives. But then you also have this book, Adventure into Fear, where instead of using Dracula, they use Morbius, who had his own film recently. But anyway, they kind of in the comics, Blade gets bitten by Morbius, and because Morbius's vampirism is not the traditional vampirism that Dracula has, it ends up affecting Blade in a different way, and so he ends up getting powers out of that. So again, it's interesting. I don't know if they even talked about Blade during the Morbius film because nobody saw it, but it would be interesting to see if they decided to have a entrance for Blade in that. So
well, I'll have you know that it is coming out. I mean, it's already out if you wanted to purchase it, via the download, what have you, but it is coming out on DVD and Blu-ray next month in July or June, I believe. So I will purchase it.
Yeah.
And I will watch it.
Yeah.
In probably one of my few comics that you don't really care to watch.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting that they did do a version where he was bitten, where Morbius bit Blade.
Yeah.
So that's also another version that is different from his mother being bitten and her being pregnant, and while he was inside his mother, he got the vampire powers. So.
And they did that, they incorporated both storylines together. The fact that Blade was bitten by, he had those latent powers. They didn't become prevalent until he got bitten by Morbius. So that's kind of the way that they used the expanded canon to get it into one story.
I gotcha.
He also had his own book, a little bit, Blade the Vampire Hunter. This is in the 90s, so you could definitely tell the style is very similar to the film, a lot closer. He's got the black leather jacket and swords and everything instead of the knives. And so the art style in this is actually pretty cool. Very much very, very typical of 90s comics, the way that they're drawn and colored and everything. So
well, the way that they portrayed or the makeup that they put on Wesley Snipes, actually the director of this film, David Norrington, he actually came up with the design for the tattoos on his head and back, which really were cool.
Yeah.
And as a director, I think he did a really good job with this movie, telling the story, because again, we also had the story tweaked because from my growing up, silver was what you used to get rid of werewolves. And you had to have a wooden stake to get of a vampire. So again, they changed, the folklore and brought it up to date with this particular movie. So
and then you asked me about this one, that Peter Parker Spider-Man number 8, and so I wasn't looking for this, but I'm glad you pointed it out because it's a pretty cool looking book. I mean, if you can't tell by the art style, this is drawn by John Romita Jr.
Oh yes,
and
definitely.
It is. I mean, Wilson Fisk, of course, drawn that way.
Yes.
To me, it's like, I mean, he's probably one of my favorite artists, John Romita Jr. It's just so stylistic. It's so comic book like.
Yes.
It's just, I don't know. To me, everything about it's really cool. But very similar. The definitely, I think the Wesley Snipes makeup and everything is very evocative.
Similar, right?
Of that, he's got the black trench coat. He's got the shades at night.
Yep.
He's got the haircut. It's almost like he's got the widow's peak here, but in the Adventure into Fear, he almost has like a opposite of that. He's got kind of almost like a bald, where he's got like a receding hairline as opposed to widow's peak. So it's kind of funny, the difference between the two. I mean, much different, but this is definitely, I think, my favorite. And of course, getting John Romita Jr. to draw characters like Venom like that, it's always a treat. So
it is like I mentioned it to you because when I saw it, it was like, oh man, we just got to add this to it. It would just
look at that splash page right there. That's some really cool stuff.
Oh man, yes. I know I kind of didn't really remember that Spider-Man story, and
No.
then when I saw some of it, I had to look at it, reflect back to it, and see it again, and I was like,
Mm.
"Oh yeah, we got to add this to the show."
Yeah.
So yes, um, very good version,
Yeah.
very good. And this was actually a little bit after the movie.
Yeah, that one did. Yeah,
If
99.
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yes. So it kind of, I'm sure it was influenced by the movie.
Yeah, it's the other way around. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
It took, but the thing is, I guess that speaks to Wesley Snipes' portrayal as character. It was so influential, ended up influencing the comics, which, you have to say the exact same thing happened in 2008 with Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man. I mean,
yes,
he ended up having more influence on the character after he portrayed him than the other way around.
True,
So.
very true. But this was, like I said, the second wide theatrical property that they shipped out or released. So,
and I guess Men in Black doesn't count then.
Pardon me?
Men in Black doesn't count then.
As far as this particular property with this company, Men in Black, I don't think was New Line, right?
No, but okay, I see what you're saying. So this was the second New Line Cinema Marvel
right.
movie. Okay, sorry, right. I stand corrected. Thank you.
No problem. But I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think I'd like to do a show on those one of these days. I guess I'll put it in line with Howard the Duck.
Okay.
But I had some different thoughts how this particular show started.
Mm-hmm.
It had the skyline almost kind of like the Ninja Turtles started off with the big city.
Yeah.
So we got a little bid of the origin with the pregnancy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's 20 years later,
Mm-hmm. Actually, I'd say that the city that Blade is in actually reminds me more about Tim Burton's Gotham than anything else.
Well, that's you mean when we get to the night scenery?
Yeah, well, or just in general. I think when he's in the cityscapes
that
we see.
I guess that would be that way.
Tim Burton's Gotham than any other place. To me, it feels like it was made almost in the same spirit as that Batman movie.
Right, but it's a far cry from the Dracula DVDs that you have, the black and white ones.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I mean, there's no mention of Dracula in this at all. In fact, the main, it's like we get a little bit of vampire politics in the film, which is, I guess, interesting.
Well, I thought that was like, really?
Yeah.
You're going to be snobbish if you were born a vampire or if you are a half-breed. You're less of a person, less of a vampire.
Yeah.
Really? And there's not that many pure-blooded born vampires.
Right.
Right? Would they have 12, 13 of them?
Yeah.
And how many other vampires are there, right?
Right. Yeah. But the main villain being Deacon Frost in this one, so it's
right, which in the original comics he didn't have as prevalent a part as he does in this.
Mm-hmm.
He is really the bad guy in this one, and Stephen Dorff.
Yep.
I think he did a marvelous job with it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there were a couple of times that I was like, wow, this guy is just the greatest bad guy. Yeah. What he's doing,
Sure.
Well, he did good, and I also liked. There was another character, Quinn. If you recall, he was
Yes,
he
yeah.
he played a cop in Gotham,
Uh-huh. Yep, that's right. That's
but
right.
I call him the not so lucky henchman
Yeah, yeah.
who has problems with hands.
Right, right. Yeah.
I kind of felt like he was the comic relief. I'm
Hmm.
guessing you would call him that in this particular film.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, very
Oh,
much like a henchman. Like, I was thinking of drawing a blank because I can't stay awake in that movie. The Superman, the original Superman movie, Lex Luthor's henchman, also bumbling
oh
like
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah. Ned
kind of,
Beatty,
yeah, he was the comic relief in that
Mr.
movie.
Luthor.
Right, exactly. So in the same similar way. That's what it was.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes. And we also had the leader of the council, Dragonetti,
Yep.
which was, I thought it was kind of cool
Yeah.
how they did that.
Yeah.
And, Chris Christopherson
Mm-hmm.
played that part really well.
Yeah.
There were a couple other actors that they considered for that. John Voight was one of them, which
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think
After
it would
Chris
work.
Christopherson, his portrayal was just really marvelous. He did a great job with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And I didn't even know he could act because, the only thing I really knew of him is that Johnny Cash sang a couple of his songs, and that was it. That's all I knew
Right. Well,
from him.
actually, he
So
was. What didn't he play with him in the Traveling Wilburys?
no, he played with them in the Highwaymen.
Oh, okay, it was the Highwaymen, but I
Travel
remember.
different super group. So
Yes, but they were both super groups. That's for sure.
yeah,
You know,
the Highwaymen was Roy Orbison, Johnny Cash, uh, Chris
Waylon
Christopherson.
Jennings.
Yeah, Waylon Jennings, I guess, and Willie Nelson, I think, for a while too.
Yes,
So they
I
all,
think.
yeah. So anyway,
Oh yeah. All right. Let's not go there then. Uh, but we did.
yeah.
Anyways, so what did you feel about the storyline?
Uh, it was interesting, I guess. The idea that, um, Deacon Frost has aspirations to revive the blood god. So, kind of getting vibes like Ghostbusters, trying to, revive an old god and
I
everything.
kind of thought about that too.
Yeah. So it's interesting, and how, Blade as a Daywalker is the key to, getting that. And so I don't know. Yeah, it was fine. The story was fine.
Lamarga,
Yeah.
the blood god.
Right. Right.
And then to find out that, he's done this whole crusade to try to find the vampire that killed his mother.
Yeah.
And his mother's not, well, she's dead, but she's undead,
Right. Right.
and Frost was the one that turned her.
Right.
So, I mean, it kind of all came together right there at the end. And it was definitely Ghostbusters when they were in that tower
Yeah. Yeah.
and all the council,
Right. Right.
they popped out of the mouths. I thought that the CG was for that time period.
Yeah.
In 98, I thought it was done really well.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all. Yeah, the special effects and, like you said, the makeup and practical stuff, even the fight choreography and the stunts, they were all done very well.
Oh yes, I definitely love the fight choreography.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's another reason that that stance with Blade flipping his sword around and then putting it in front, just like one of the comic book pictures.
Oh yeah,
one of the
yeah.
And seeing him like that and then lifting his face up with the sunglasses, it's like nobody else could play that role.
Yeah,
definitely not. Okay, so how about the music? What did you feel about the music? Anything in particular?
Nothing really stood out to me. He yeah, it's just it's fine. It's definitely, it's particularly the non-score stuff, like the diegetic music in the film, definitely similar to anything from the late 90s electronica music scene. So
Right. But then also when Whistler was doing repairs at the shop, he was listening to was it Creedence Clearwater Revival, I think,
Oh, yeah,
Bad
yeah,
Moon
yeah.
Rising.
Right.
Yeah. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm good with that. Okay, so we discussed the plot, we discussed the CG, the music, the actors. I think this was very well cast.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, even the minor parts, were done real well. They've got the right actors to do the right things, I think, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And the cityscape, we discussed that it was, you say it was more like Batman, and I thought a little Ninja Turtles, but I
Right.
think you're probably more correct than I am on that.
Okay.
So,
You know,
again,
yeah, it's funny. Like I was just, clicking through here because I wanted to look up some more information about the film. But apparently they announced in 2019 that Marshall Ali is going to be the MCU's Blade.
what?
And if you remember, he's also the character or the actor who portrayed Cottonmouth in the Luke Cage series. So
That's true.
he could definitely pull it off. I just find I don't know. I don't know, having one character play two roles in the same universe is kind of wacky me. Of course, the actress who played Mariah in that also was in Civil War, so
That's true.
So
yes,
that's interesting.
Yes, but again, MCU was way before this.
Yeah,
but I mean, way after this. So
yeah, and to me, if we're going to be doing the multiverse thing, I could definitely see a place where you have Wesley Snipes come back and be an older Blade. I think that would be cool.
Oh yes, definitely. And him take the place of Whistler.
Yeah, no,
that would be cool, huh?
That'd be pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think that's great. Definitely. Okay, so yeah, I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about the reboot, but it's really, I don't know if you could call it a reboot because it's going to be an MCU Blade, right?
Yeah, it is. It's supposed to be, at least.
All right. And I guess I'll find out when Morbius comes out if there's any mention of Blade in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you would think there would be, but I don't know.
Well, we had a discussion about when I told you about the Venom Let There Be Carnage movie, which I don't remember if I showed you that one or not, or if we saw that. But at the end of it,
right,
there was a MCU Flash in there. Right. So I guess they could do something like that with Morbius.
Yeah.
But I guess I'll just have to see when I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that you'd like to discuss here?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, good. All right. Well, I do want to mention just one other thing.
Okay.
In this revised version of vampires, crucifix don't do anything.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yes, because I thought that the original plot, I had saw a special about it, and somebody had mentioned that the reason that they portrayed that as a weapon against vampires was because, the vampires take your blood, and whereas the crucifix, Jesus gave his blood to save our lives, and they take your blood for their lives. So,
okay,
I thought it was kind of interesting, but that they chose to just get rid of it out of the lore,
Yeah.
But then again, they added silver to the lore. And
right.
That's a werewolf thing. I'm sorry, I'm an old guy, and that's what I remember.
Yeah.
All right, good. So, your opinions on the film, as far as your I guess we go to the rating, and
Mhm.
there was no, again, no nothing after the film, no teaser.
Right,
So
right,
I
right.
don't know if they knew at that time whether they were going to have a sequel.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I don't. Yeah, they set it up for it to be a sequel at the very end. So, I mean,
yes, well, Goyer had pitched it
yeah.
uh, when it was owned by New World
Okay.
as a trilogy,
Oh, okay.
and they like totally blew it off. They kind of wanted to do Blade as like a spoof.
Okay.
So yeah, I know. So
Well, I
thank
actually,
God that never really went, the way it went.
you could theoretically pull that off if you made it a period piece, like as an early '70s, like black exploitation film. I could actually see that having some interesting appeal to it. If you were to do it, like if you were to, you could
If it
make
was done correctly.
you could make it as a spoof if it was in that spirit, and like I said, a period piece for the '70s as like a retro thing. I think you could have pulled it off, but um, yeah.
Well, I love the way they did it.
Yeah, no, I think this was the right way to go, and thankfully, it wasn't the last that we saw of David Goyer's films. We've actually covered a couple of them already on.
Oh yes, yes, he's a excellent writer.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think we'll find later that he can do other things too.
Right.
So, uh, this film for me, it falls into that almost timeless category.
Okay.
I mean, it's a film that I would watch again.
Uh-huh.
I felt like there was so much action that it really kept your interest for the majority of the film.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess you do have to make the caveat that it is a rated R film, and I think
Yes.
most of it, it while some of parts are violent, a lot of it is not gory per se. In fact, when he's killing the vampires and everything, they're kind of melting away in a very
Vaporizing kind
yeah,
of.
yeah. So it's not like super gory and terrible. I think really the thing that gives it its rating, I think, is more the language than anything else. There's a lot of F bombs in it. So I
Oh
guess
yes, yes.
I could see if you were to get like the TV version or whatever, where those are censored, you could easily make it a PG-13 viewing, I think.
Oh yes,
So,
definitely. Well, the most of the blood stuff is from them biting.
right,
There's not many
right.
uh, other areas where you get, a lot slasher blood and things like that.
Yeah, right, right.
A little bit, but not a lot.
Uh-huh.
It, like you said, it's more vaporizing than
Right,
anything else.
right, right.
Although I have to say, when Blade used the blue stuff, the anticoagulant,
Yeah, yeah,
those were
yeah.
I, I kind of loved them. And it's like when they exploded,
Oh
I
yeah,
expected
yeah. It was
I
yeah,
expected there to be more blood on
yeah,
people.
yeah. It was definitely more to me like it to that part where it got really comic booky, where like they got like crazy,
Yes.
and then they came across that Pearl character where he was giant, you know.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So to me, I thought they definitely there were light moments in the film like that.
Yes,
So
yes, definitely. So yes, and her cohort at the morgue.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, when he at the end,
yeah,
when he was down at the bottom, that was another one
yeah.
of those moments.
Yep, yep.
So I'm ready to rate it. What about you?
Yeah, yeah. Sure, let's do it.
Okay, excellent. Well, I liked it a lot, and I kind of want to go higher, but I'm going to go with an 8 for it.
Okay.
It's definitely a movie that I would watch again
Uh-huh.
and again. I have seen it a few times. It
Yeah.
has special meaning to me because it's was you gave it to me for Christmas one year, the Blade trilogy pack.
Oh,
So
okay. Cool.
So it has special meaning to me that way too.
Okay. Cool.
All right. So you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'll give it a 7. To me, vampires really just aren't my thing. So, for what it is, I appreciate what it is. I think, like I said, the performances were great. I think the writing was good, but the story itself was just okay. I felt like if you wanted to do a good, I don't know. Well, I'm going to reserve judgment till we see the rest of the Blade movies before I talk more about that part of it. But definitely a strong opener for the Blade trilogy. So definitely a 7 for me.
Okay. Well, see, that's the thing, and I'm sure that we can agree that most sequels are not as good as the original ones.
Yeah.
So I think, like you say, we should do Blade 2 definitely next week.
Yeah.
And will it be as good as the first one? Will it be better? Let's find out, right?
Right.
Awesome. All right, good.
Cool.
Well, then that's it then.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in on another episode of Pop's Collection. If you have any feedback, please follow us on social media and drop us a line there. And we'll see you next week with Blade 2. Goodbye. God bless.
Goodbye. God bless, and tell your friends.